Oh, we always look forward to Friday night and the summer series of Nightline with our mate Nigel of Nigel's Animal Rescue.
G'day Phil, g'day Simon.
Nigel, how are you?
I'm excellent, and Phil, it's great to see you've lost a bit of your equipment.
And lost a bit of weight too, you know.
Well, you have lost a little bit of weight, but he's only on one crutch now, so he's lost his skimming machine.
One crutch Brady, we call him now.
That's right, I'll be going to cash converters with the Zimmer frame and the commode chair and the toilet seat.
Oh, that's great to see you healing quickly.
Thank you, mate. Now tell us about your rescue of the week.
Oh, that would be probably last night's job that I did. Another koala. This one had fallen out of a tree. Now, down in the Traralgon area where they've got the gum plantations down there, the people at the farm, the tree loppers go in and harvest all the gums, and this koala had been seen falling out of the tree. So they were a bit worried about it. So I got a phone call, and down we went last night. Climbed the tree. It was about 60 to 70 foot off the ground, very skinny up the top, and it was a little bit windy, but we got this girl down, and she seemed okay to me, but after further investigations today, I just received a message about an hour ago from Colleen to say that another one had been put to sleep.
Oh, how sad.
I'm just wondering...
Internal injuries, I assume, from a fall of that height?
Well, no, this one actually had cysts inside of her, ovaries, which is can do with chlamydia, and she had bilateral vision, I think, a few other things wrong with her. So I just wish I could rescue a koala that we can actually save, because all the ones I do end up having to be put to sleep.
I know you've lost 2 or 3 in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we have.
When you mentioned koala fell out of a tree, the first thing I thought was, well, that would be quite unusual, I would imagine. So obviously she was unwell to begin with all these cysts and things.
Yes, she had other problems with her. But
so unfortunately probably the kindest thing that could happen.
Yes, for her in this particular case. But a lot of koalas do actually fall out of trees, and I've been told that they blow themselves up with air, and they sort of bounce on the ground, and I have seen them.
Is that right?
I have seen them come from 80 foot out of trees and then run straight back up the tree again.
But why would they want to jump off in the first place?
Well, branches break, the bark on the trees can give way as they try to get grip.
And they're as drunk as skunks, aren't they? Or is that just a...
I think that's just a myth. They just sort of sit around there lazy.
Because they look it. They look drunk.
Yeah, there's all those jokes out there. But I have seen koalas that have fallen 6 foot out of a tree and break a shoulder. It all depends on
not enough time to inhale.
Possibly. There you go.
I'm going to use that as an excuse next time my wife tells me I'm fat.
Now, tell us about the wildlife carers. They need help, don't they?
Oh, yeah. All the wildlife carers right through out Australia at this time of the year, the shelters are absolutely chock-a-block full of animals. They're coming in left, right and centre. Now, all of these people do it out of their own back pocket. They do it for the love of the animal. Nobody pays them. They get no funding whatsoever. So if anybody wants to help out any of the people doing this marvellous work, find your local shelter in your local area and support them. You know, you can offer money, equipment, food.
They must spend a fortune on medicines.
Well, they do. They cover all their own veterinary costs. A lot of the vets do help out and subsidise them as well. But it is all done voluntary, and a lot of people don't realise that.
We mentioned that earlier in the first hour with David Mann.
Yeah, I heard that. That's why I thought we'd bring it up tonight.
Yeah.
What a shame it's not government subsidised, for goodness sake.
Yes, or some of the larger charities out there that do get the money in and passing it on to the people that actually do the hard work.
So why not adopt a favourite wildlife centre of your own in your area?
Yes, that's certainly one very good idea.
Would you find them on the internet?
Yes, some of them are on the internet.
But I guess the problem with a lot of them is they're just generally, and this is a gross generalisation, so I mean no offence by it, but generally they'll be a lovely woman who lives on her own, loves her animals, and so her house just becomes a wildlife shelter, and before you know it, she's a full-time wildlife carer and funding it out of her own pocket. They're generally not web savvy. They're not able to get on the internet and set themselves up with, please make a cash donation here.
That's right.
Spreading, posting on Facebook and spreading the news of the work that they do.
Sure.
So they there is no real way for them to get noticed.
No. Well, we've met some wonderful ones that you've taken me to over the years, and I'm very impressed by them.
Yeah, well,
and if I could support each and every one of them, I wish I could.
Well, I've got some ideas for the future. I can't can't speak about them now, but hopefully in the not too distant future that I'll be able to let everybody know what we're planning on doing.
Good, that sounds wonderful. Now, folks, if you have a question for Nigel about roadkill or wildlife or whatever, 96900 is only here a few minutes. You've had a lot of interaction with waterbirds that have been tangled up in fishing nets and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. This time of the year, now that the weather has changed and everybody's going down to the local lakes and down to the local beaches, I want you to admire the wildlife out there, the pelicans, the cormorants, the seagulls, but do look out for fishing line. There's a lot of animals out there entangled in fishing line, and unless we get the reports of it, we can't do anything about it. There's a big fishing competition happening this weekend, the Tea Tree Comp for the snapper out in Port Phillip and Western Port Bays, and I'll bet you that over the next couple of weeks we're going to get a heap of calls coming in, mutton birds and all sorts that have been entangled in fishing line. So any fishermen out there that do end up catching one of these birds, please bring them into the boat and not just cut the line off and let the birds go, because that does happen a lot. All you need is use your towel, put it over the head of the bird, and get that hook out of the animal if it's badly injured. If you can contain the bird on the boat, and then give me a ring or any of the numbers that we give out, any of the wildlife people, so that bird can then go into care. So while you're out there, admire the water birds and the wildlife, but please do look out for entanglement.
Why are so many mutton birds being washed up on our shores?
Oh, that's a seasonal thing that happens. They've come from so far from the other side of the world. They've arrived here in Melbourne, and every year we do get thousands of them that are dying through starvation. They haven't picked up food on the way through.
They've come from Siberia, some of them.
Yes, they have, and so
it is exhausted flying that far.
And they don't even have a visa. I mean, how do they get into the country?
So that is a thing that does happen every year.
Round them up and send them all to Nauru.
Hey, now, Solomon wanted to ask you, has the magpie season finished yet?
It has, yes. There's very few swooping birds out there at the moment. So the magpie season has finished, but we still do have other birds out there.
Yes.
The Indian miners, believe it or not. I've got a couple of jobs to do over the weekend for miners, which are swooping people. But we've got a lot of baby birds still on the ground. People are still rescuing them when they don't need to be rescued.
Yes.
If you find a baby bird on the ground, monitor it, watch it. You'll see the parent birds coming down and feeding it. If it's got a broken leg or if it's got a broken wing, they're the ones that we need to rescue.
Yes, and if it looks visually okay, but it's just hopping around, it's just learning to fly.
That's exactly right. And some birds can be on the ground for up to 1 week before they're up and flying. So that's when the cats and the dogs, and everybody's worried that a cat or dog might get it. So obviously keep those animals away.
And I don't intend to sound like a smart aleck by preempting what Nigel was saying there, sounding all knowledgeable. I only know that because my wife and I rescued a raven.
Thank you.
And we rang Nigel. Nigel came and said, "There's nothing wrong with it. You've kidnapped someone's child."
Oh no!
Yes. So we took it back, and the reuniting of that baby with its parents was the most beautiful thing. We'd had it in our house all day.
Oh yes.
And we went back to where we picked it up from, and the parents were sort of nowhere around. But as soon as we opened the box and let it out, and it squawked, the parents just arrived and came down to protect it and help it away.
Nature's wonderful.
That exactly same situation happened to me earlier on this week, as I had a baby magpie stuck down a chimney for 2 days. And we had to cut a hole in this wall because the chimney had been boarded up. Cut a hole, got the baby magpie out, took him outside. He started squawking, and within about 30 seconds we had both parents turn up. The male came down, and I actually thought, well, this might not be its dad, because he came down and attacked the baby on the ground. But within 2 minutes, this male bird had gone over to the other side of the street, picked up some grubs, flew straight back to the baby, and fed the baby in front of me.
He was just telling him off. Where the hell have you been? He was saying.
Possibly. So, we can get them back to each other, and that's what it's all about.
Did you then fix something over the top of the chimney?
Seal the top of the flue. There's something I say to a lot of my customers, I should say almost every customer I deal with a bird down a chimney. It's a standard joke that we have in at 3AW. Put me out of business.
Yeah,
yes.
good. It was
Celia
my idea
chimneys,
originally. It was a chicken
was.
wire. Now, also, plover birds are inclined to hover at this time of year, aren't
Yes,
they?
plover birds, they're a ground-laying bird, so their eggs are on the ground, and their little chicks run around on the ground for a good 6 to 7 weeks before, as they are growing up. They're just being good parents, stay away from the chicks, and if you are being swooped by a plover, if you point at the bird and look at the bird, it won't make contact with you. But I will say with plovers, I have never, ever, in 29 years now, been hit by a plover bird.
Okay.
They very, very rarely make physical contact on humans, but they come very close and they are very scary.
Yeah, they're sort of kamikaze birds. Before you leave us, Nigel's Animal Rescue, give us a contact number where we can reach you, please.
Well, my number is 0427 533 083.
Okay, one more time, please.
0427 533 083. You can find me on Facebook at Nigel Williamson or Nigel's Animal Rescue.
Yes,
And
to go directly to it, facebook.com/Nigel's Animal Rescue.
Now, what about if we encounter animal cruelty, like those puppy farmers we've been seeing on TV this week?
anything to do with animals, cruelty, anywhere in Victoria is the Animal Cruelty Hotline number, which is run by Barry Tapp. And that number is 1-800, that's 1800 751 770.
Right, finally, Help for Wildlife, do they have their own number?
Yep, Help for Wildlife are the signs that you see out there on the roads. A great number to have stored in your phone, just like mine, and that is 0417 380 687.
Well, two things. Would you like to come back again next Friday night at 10:30?
I would love to be back, Phil.
And secondly, would you like to hang around and give me a lift home at midnight, please?
How much are you going to pay me?
I'm not allowed in taxis yet, you see.
Oh, okay.
No, I can only travel with friends.
That would be my pleasure.
And you promise you won't go too fast over speed humps?
No, well, I've got the rescue vehicle at the front tonight, so you're an animal. We'll put you in the back of it.
All right.
He's got a goose to get out of a chimney in Geelong, but he'll be back about 3 to
He'll be back for this goose at midnight.